The arena dust bit into Lenoria's blue skin, a cruel reminder of her defeat. Her broken spear lay beside her, its dying energy sparking faintly. The roar of the crowd pressed down, a crushing weight. She had lost. Defeat settled over her, chilling her to the core. A memory, sharp and painful, flashed through her mind. The evacuation of her homeworld. Her arms had cradled a child, blue-skinned like her, eyes wide with confusion. "We will find safety," she'd promised, the words hollow even. Then, Imperial soldiers had torn the child away, marking Lenoria as combat viable for her defiance. Her first taste of the arena selection process, the human champion, a hulking figure in an amplified exosuit, approached with the unhurried gait of a predator. His ceremonial blade, gleamed with a blue-white intensity, was designed for clean, efficient executions. The weapon hummed faintly, a sound that quieted the crowd, their anticipation a palpable wave. Lenoria could smell his sweat, sharp and alien. His breath was measured, the rhythm of one who had performed this duty countless times. No heroics, just death, she thought, and an unexpected peace settled over her. No anger, no hope, just a strange, empty calm. Her inner voice and even her heart had gone quiet. She closed her eyes, unwilling to give them the satisfaction of fear. The sounds of the arena receded, as if she were sinking under water. For a breath, all was stillness. Then a sound that didn't belong, almost musical, thin, unreal, the hiss of an arrow. Lenoria's eyes snapped open. The champion's blade hovered near her face, her distorted reflection visible in its polished surface. He was frozen, his expression shifting from confidence to confusion. A minute twitch in his neck, almost imperceptible. His eyes widened with the sudden, terrible realization of the dying. He dropped his sword. It fell with a dull thud, embedding itself in the arena dust near Lenoria's knee. A wooden arrow, rough-hewn, with stabilizing flights of scrap material, jutted from the back of his skull. Blood, startlingly crimson, seeped from the wound, running down the back of his exosuit. The champion collapsed forward, narrowly missing Lenoria, hitting the ground with an impossibly loud thud that raised a small cloud of dust. For the first time in cycles, perhaps in the history of these games, the arena went completely silent. Thousands of spectators, suspended in shock, created a silence so profound it felt physical. Even the electronic hum of the arena system seemed muted, as though the machinery itself was stunned. Lenoria's gaze followed the arrow's trajectory, upward, scanning the vast superstructure of the arena. Her eyes, adapted for tracking movement, caught nothing but the usual security drones and monitoring equipment. Yet somewhere in that tangle of steel and carbon fiber, someone had just changed everything. The silence lasted only moments before chaos erupted. Security alarms blared. The crowd's shock transformed into a panicked roar as people stampeded toward the exits. Guards in their distinctive red armor poured onto the arena floor, weapons raised, forming a circle around Lenoria and the fallen champion. But she wasn't pulled from the arena by the guards. He pulled her out. A firm hand gripped her upper arm, yanking her sideways into a maintenance shaft hidden behind a panel that slid open in the arena wall. The panel shut behind them, cutting off the growing pandemonium, muffling the sounds to a distant rumble. "Move." The voice was human, urgent, and unexpectedly ordinary. Her rescuer was simple, unremarkable, in a way that would make him invisible in a crowd. He wore a worn mechanic's jumpsuit, stained with grease and marked with the insignia of arena maintenance. Welding goggles rested on his forehead, pushing back unkempt brown hair. One cheek twitched slightly, a small rhythmic nerve tick beneath the skin that intensified whenever he glanced toward the arena walls. His name was Cade, he told her as they moved hurriedly through the narrow tunnel that smelled of copper and fire, the distinctive scent of the arena's underworks. Unlike the sleek antiseptic passages above, these maintenance tunnels were raw, utilitarian spaces that few ever saw. Why? Lenoria managed to ask, her voice raspy from disuse. Prisoners weren't encouraged to speak. Because what they're doing isn't right, he replied, his voice low and urgent. I've been watching. You're the only one who refused to kill when you could have. Third fight against the Vorlak prisoner. You had him down, blade at his throat. You hesitated, she remembered. The creature had looked at her with intelligence, with fear, with a silent plea. The crowd had screamed for blood. She had stepped back. I couldn't just keep watching, Cade continued, guiding her around a junction where steam hissed from pressure valves. His eyes darted away, a shadow crossing his features. Not anymore. Not after what I've helped build. What do you mean? Lenoria asked. Cade's jaw tightened. I designed the ventilation systems for the labs, installed the power conduits. I told myself I was just doing my job, that I didn't know what happened behind those doors. His voice grew bitter, but I knew. The screams carried through my ducts. I just chose not to hear them. His hands trembled slightly as he bypassed another security panel. 3 years I worked on those systems. 3 years of looking the other way, until last month when I found a child's toy in one of the air filters, a small, carved figure. That looked like one of your people, he glanced at her. That's when I stopped pretending. They moved deeper into the substructure of the arena, through passages that grew increasingly narrow and less maintained. Lenoria's wounded hand throbbed with each heartbeat, but she forced herself to keep pace. Cade seemed to know the labyrinth of tunnels instinctively, never hesitating at intersections, occasionally stopping to bypass security measures with practiced ease. She didn't trust him, but she walked, too wounded to resist, too tired to fight. And somewhere, beneath the exhaustion and pain, a flicker of curiosity sparked. Why would a human risk everything for an alien prisoner? After what seemed like hours, they reached a small chamber that appeared to be Cade's private workspace. It was cramped but meticulously organized, with tools hanging on wall mounts and parts categorized in labeled containers. A small cot occupied one corner. Multiple screens covered one wall, showing various feeds from around the arena complex. Sit, he instructed, indicating the cot. Let me see your hand. Lenoria hesitated, then slowly extended her damaged limb. 3 of her 7 fingers had been crushed during the fight. The skin was cracked, revealing the bioluminescent tissue beneath. Cade examined the wound with clinical detachment, then retrieved a medical kit from beneath a workbench. I'm not a doctor, he admitted, but I've patched up enough injuries to know the basics. This will hurt. It did hurt, but Lenoria remained silent as he cleaned, set, and bandaged her broken fingers. When he finished, he handed her a container of water and a ration pack. Standard arena sustenance, but she hadn't. Eaten in 2 days dot. As she ate, the door hissed open. Lanoria tensed, ready to fight despite her injuries. But Cade raised a hand in reassurance. "It's just Merrick," he said. "He's with us." A security guard entered, his uniform bearing the insignia of Arena Internal Security. He was younger than Cade, with sharp features and alert eyes that quickly assessed Lanoria. "So this is the fighter," he said, removing his helmet. "Risky move, bringing her here." "Necessary risk," Cade replied. "She's the proof we need." Merrick shrugged. "Your call, but we need to move soon. They're expanding the search parameters. Won't be long before they check maintenance sectors." He tossed a security keycard to Cade. "This will get you access to the eastern quadrant. I've disabled the cameras along that route for the next 2 hours. After that, you're on your own until my next shift." "Thank you," Cade said. "We won't forget this." After Merrick left, Lanoria asked, "Why help me?" More directly this time, studying Cade's face for deception. Cade was silent for a moment, his hands busy returning medical supplies to their proper places. When he finally answered, his voice had lost its urgency, replaced by something quieter, more resigned. "I repair turrets, oil airlocks, map out maintenance shafts. I'm a nobody. Been that way my whole life." His hands stilled. "My father worked the arena before me. Never questioned anything. When I took over his position, I was the same. Just kept the machines running." Kept. My head down. He looked up at her, his eyes suddenly intense. "But then I started noticing things. Patterns. Discrepancies in the prisoner manifests. Supply requisitions that didn't match the official number of combatants." He moved to the wall of screens, tapped a sequence into a control panel. The displays changed, showing archive footage, schematics, data streams. "Look," he said, pointing to a flowchart that appeared on the central screen. "Every alien who passes through the arena system, win or lose, vanishes afterward. Requisitioned, processed. Those are the official terms." Lanoria stood, ignoring the pain that flared through her body, and moved closer to the screens. She saw combat logs, execution reports, facility schematics. A hidden pattern emerged from the seemingly disconnected information, a pattern of systematic elimination. "This isn't just blood sport," Cade said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's a filter, a slaughterhouse. They're using the arena to identify specific genetic traits, specific capabilities among non-human species. The ones who show promise are harvested." The word hung in the air between them, ugly and raw. "Why are you showing me this?" Lanoria asked, her mind racing to process the implications. "Because if you disappear, they'll erase even your name," Cade replied. "They'll erase everything you were, like you never existed at all." He paused, then added quietly, "And I can't let that happen. Not anymore." Lanoria stared at the screens, at the evidence of a system designed to process living beings like resources, a system that had nearly claimed her. "What do you want from me?" she asked, turning to face him. "Fully. Help me expose it," he answered simply. "Help me make everyone see." They started small. Cade patched into forgotten communication lines, bypassing security protocols by exploiting maintenance overrides that no one had bothered to update in years. Lanoria, once her injuries had begun to heal, used her combat training to move through restricted areas, gathering evidence where Cade couldn't go. One night, as she slipped through the prisoner transfer corridor, she heard a struggle in one of the holding cells. Through the narrow observation slot, she saw a prisoner, a massive four-armed Kryax warrior, pinning a young human against the wall. The human wore a guard's uniform, but was barely more than a child, perhaps 16 years old. His face was pale with terror as the prisoner's hands tightened around his throat. "They killed my broodmates," the Kryax snarled. "Now I take one of theirs." Lanoria didn't hesitate. She overrode the door lock and stepped inside. "Release him," she commanded. The Kryax turned, surprise momentarily replacing rage. "You, the blue fighter, what do you care about this human?" "He's not your enemy," she said calmly, though her muscles tensed for combat. "He's as much a prisoner as you are, just wearing a different uniform. He guards the door to the death chambers." The Kryax roared. "He is complicit." The young guard, still pinned to the wall, gasped out words through his constricted throat. "I didn't know what happened inside. They just assigned me." Lanoria stepped closer. "If you kill him, you become what they want you to be, a killer. A beast. You prove their propaganda true." "Justice demands blood," the Kryax insisted, but his grip loosened slightly. "Justice demands change," Lanoria countered. "And change requires witnesses. Let him live to see what they've done. Let him become a voice against it." For a long moment, the Kryax remained motionless. Then, with a grunt, he released the guard, who slid to the floor, coughing and gasping. "Your words better be worth his life, Blue One," the Kryax said. Lanoria helped the young guard to his feet. "What's your name?" she asked. "Thomas," he replied hoarsely. "Thomas, what you've seen here tonight, remember it. When the time comes, you'll have to choose which side you stand on." The boy nodded, his eyes wide with confusion and dawning comprehension. She left them both there, continuing her mission. But the encounter stayed with her. Change would require more than just exposing truth. It would require breaking cycles of vengeance, finding mercy in the midst of justified rage. She stole a camera core from the laboratory section, a tiny device that held the recorded memories of prisoners who had been processed. The footage it contained was horrific. Surgical procedures performed on conscious subjects, biological material harvested, test results meticulously recorded. "Why?" she asked Cade one night. He had just finished broadcasting their findings to every display screen in the arena complex, overriding all official channels. The chilling data, the recorded screams, the irrefutable proof of the harvesting program flashed across the screens, replacing the scheduled propaganda. They were dragged from their hideout through the maintenance tunnels and up to the arena floor. The screens still showed their broadcast, though technicians worked frantically to regain control of the system. The crowd, now restless and uncertain, watched as Lanoria was beaten to her knees. Cade was forced down beside her, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. Before them stood the arena's high commander, his ceremonial blade etched with ancient marks of office. He lifted it slowly above Cade's neck, his voice carrying across the now silent arena. "For disrupting order, for treason, for deception, the sentence is death." Lanoria struggled to her feet, pain shooting through her body. Blood dripped from her split lip, glowing faintly with the bioluminescence characteristic of her species. "He is human," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. The commander paused, blade still raised. Yes, a traitor to his kind. No. Lanoria stood straighter, facing him directly. He's the best of you. The commander's face twisted into a smirk. Sentiment, he sneered, raising the sword higher, preparing for the killing stroke. But again, a hiss. An arrow, straight and fast. It knocked the blade from the commander's hand with impossible precision, sending it spinning across the arena floor. Everyone turned toward the source of the shot. On a steel beam high above the arena floor, a child, a human boy, no more than 12 years old, balanced precariously on the narrow support. He held a makeshift bow strung with wire and welded pipe, and was already knocking another arrow. Lanoria looked closer at the arrows in his quiver. They weren't simply handmade. They were fashioned from pieces of the arena itself, splinters of the ceremonial platform, shards of damaged arena barriers, even what appeared to be fragments of prisoner restraints, all transformed into instruments of liberation. I saw there. Video, he called down, his voice high but unwavering. I am human, too, and I won't stay silent. The commander snarled, ordering his guards, pointing at the boy. Before they could raise their weapons, another arrow struck the ground at their feet. A warning. You have your lasers and pulse rifles, Lanoria called out, finding strength in the boy's courage. We have wooden wire, but we aim truer, because we fight for truth. In that moment of hesitation, something in the crowd shifted, a murmur that grew to a roar. People began to move, not away from the arena as before, but toward it. Workers, attendants, even some lower-ranking guards. They poured onto the arena floor. A riot exploded, but unlike most uprisings, the crowd didn't run from danger. They ran toward it. They surrounded Lanoria and Cade, forming a protective barrier between them and the commander's forces. Throughout the complex, cells opened. Prisoners poured out, weaponless but no longer afraid. Many were injured, weakened by their captivity, but they moved with the desperate energy of those with nothing left to lose. Cade, still dazed from the stun baton but conscious, began organizing the resistance. His knowledge of the arena systems proved invaluable. He directed groups to secure key access points, to disable security measures, to free more prisoners. The corridors became a chaotic battlefield. Not all the freed prisoners followed Lanoria's example of restraint. Near one of the security checkpoints, a massive reptilian prisoner had cornered a group of young guards. His claws, designed for ripping through dense jungle vegetation on his homeworld, were equally effective against armor and flesh. Traitors deserve death. He growled, advancing on the terrified guards who had dropped their weapons in surrender. Stop. Lanoria inserted herself between the prisoner and his intended victims. They surrendered. They chose to stop fighting. They didn't show mercy to my nestmates. The reptilian hissed, his scales flaring with rage. Why should I show mercy to them? Because we must be better than they were, she answered, not backing down. Or we simply replace one cruelty with another. For a tense moment it seemed the prisoner would attack her too. Then slowly his scales settled. What would you have me do with them? Confine them. Treat them as we wish to be treated, she said. Let them see what justice truly looks like. The reptilian growled but nodded, directing the guards to a storage room rather than slaughtering them dot as they moved away. Lanoria noticed Cade watching from nearby, his expression a mixture of admiration and concern. Not everyone will listen. To reason, he said quietly as she approached. Then we keep trying until they do, she replied. Or what was the point of any of this?